Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 2026 Ordinary Council meeting. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past and present. I would like to advise everyone that the audio and the video of this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. I request everyone to please turn off your mobile phones. I remind you that audio recording of the meeting proceedings and photography within the chamber is prohibited unless prior approval has been granted, and councillors and city officers are reminded to disclose any declarations of financial interests and interests affecting impartiality, and are requested to activate their microphones when addressing the meeting. So, with that, we turn to item 1, which is the declaration of opening. I declare the meeting open at 6:14 p.m. Item 2 is a disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action as a result of a council decision until such time as they have seen a copy of the minutes or been advised in writing by the council's administration with regard to any particular decision. Item 3 is announcements from the presiding member, that's me. Councillors, as announced by the City, Councillors Hayley Prendeville, Tim Howling and Bronwyn Moore have resigned from their positions as Councillors of the City of South Perth. On behalf of the City of South Perth, I would like to thank Councillors Prendeville, Howling and Moore for their service and contribution to the Council and the City during their time in office. Councillors, would you please join me in thanking them for their service and in wishing them well for the future. Next is mayoral report, and in accordance with Council Resolution 226 of 32, a table of my formal engagements, meetings and events since the last council meeting is available in the ordinary council meeting agenda. That brings us to item 4, which is attendance. Item 4.1 is apologies. I have received an apology from Councillor Jacqueline Raison. That was weird. From Councillor Jacqueline Raison for this evening. And item 4.2 is approved leaves of absence, of which there are nil for this evening. Item 5 is declarations of interest. The first is from me, Mayor Greg Milner. I've declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1, as over the years I've developed positive working relationships with many local sporting clubs and community clubs that have or potentially have an interest in this item. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1 as this item has the potential to impact on significant trees, I declare an interest due to my association with the South Perth and WA Tree Canopy Advocates and confirm that I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Kathy Lees has already also declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.5, as this item includes removal of a regulated tree. I declare an interest due to my association with the South Perth and WA Tree Canopy Advocates and confirm that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Mayor Greg Milner, me again. I've declared a financial interest in item 10.5.3, as this item proposes revisions to policy P649, mayoral vehicle, and I've also declared an impartiality interest in item 12.1, as I know a number of the members of the South Perth Senior Citizens Centre. Councillors, does anyone else have any interest that they wish to declare? Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just, to be on the safe side, be cautious. 10.5.2 and 10.5.3 both specifically relate to tree matters, so for the same reasons as my other declarations, I wanted to declare an impartiality interest here.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, any further declarations this evening? No. Okay. Item 6 is public question time. Item 6.1 is responses to previous public questions taken on notice. That's nil for this evening. Item 6.2 is public question time. And before I open public question time formally, just a gentle reminder to everyone that this section is for questions only, and please do keep preamble to a minimum, and please do refrain from using any offensive, objectionable or defamatory language. I now open public question time at 6:18 p.m. We've received one written submission prior to tonight's meeting, so I'd like to begin by inviting Ms Bronwyn David of South Perth to the microphone. Welcome to you, Ms David, and we look forward to your questions.
Good evening, Mayor, good evening, councillors, and good evening, city staff. Thank you for this opportunity. I was pleased to see that at 10.4.3 in tonight's agenda, under the heading Response to Notice of Motion Financial Sustainability Strategy, that successful prosecutions were listed as an example of other revenue. I hope one day soon a prosecution over the destruction of the enormous Chewett tree at 41 South Terrace will also be a successful prosecution. In the meantime, I'm wondering if the city could provide details of every prosecution in the last financial year, including the name of the policy that was contravened and the outcome, including the sums awarded to the city and the cost to the city of these prosecutions. Note that I'm not interested in the name of the defendant or the individual or business that was prosecuted.
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen, can I send that to you?
Thank you through the Chair, and thank you for the question. Since the 1st of July 2025, the City has completed one prosecution in relation to Local Planning Policy 3.2 tree retention. The fine imposed by the Magistrate Court was $5,000, with the accused ordered to pay costs of $1,646. The cost to the City of this prosecution was $2,666.44. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. And your second question, Ms David?
Thank you very much. Are the results of these prosecutions reported publicly anywhere by the city, such as on the website, in newsletters, etc., in accordance with the public interest in them?
Thank you. Ms Mullen.
Thank you through the Chair, and thank you for the question. No, in respect to promoting successful prosecutions, this may result in privacy breaches or vigilante doxing activity. Further, sharing inaccurate or defamatory information about a conviction could lead to defamation claims, and therefore the City is not intending to publicise the outcome of prosecutions.
Thank you. My next question is whether you can tell me how many approvals and or refusals have been made in relation to Local Planning Policy 3.2 since its adoption.
Thank you. Ms Mullen.
Thank you, and through the Chair. 136 development applications have been assessed under Local Planning Policy 3.2 in total. Of these, 128 were approved. This included development applications where trees were retained. 15 of these decisions included the removal of regulated trees, and 3 of these decisions approved pruning of regulated trees. 8 of the total number of development applications were refused for reasons associated with tree damaging activity.
Thank you, Ms Mullen, and thank you, Ms David, for the questions.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll now check with governance if there's any late questions in the tray. No, there's not? Okay. In that case, I close public question time at 21 minutes past 6 p.m. That brings us to item 7 of the agenda, which is confirmation of minutes and notes. Item 7.1 is minutes, and item 7.1.1 is the ordinary council meeting held on 26 May 2026. So I'm about to look for a mover and a seconder for a motion that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 26 May 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Thank you. I think Councillor Lees was first and seconded by Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No, then I'll declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.1.2 is the special council meeting held on 16 June 2026. So once again, about to look for a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the special council meeting held 16 June 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Lees, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No. Okay, that will be carried unanimously then. Item 7.1.3, special council meeting held 18 June 2026. Once again, looking for a mover and a seconder for a motion that the minutes of the special council meeting held 18 June 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Looking for a mover, Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Someone to second? Councillor Lees, thank you. Does anyone oppose? No. Thank you all. That's carried unanimously. All right. Item 7.2 is notes of briefings. So about to call for a mover and a seconder for a motion that council notes that the following concept briefings and workshops were held. Item 7.2.1, concept briefings and workshops, and item 7.2.2, council agenda briefing held 23 June 2026. Looking for a mover. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. I'll mix it up. I'll second this one. Does anyone oppose? No. In that case, that's carried unanimously. Thank you all. Item 8 is presentations. Item 8.1 is petitions. That's nil for this evening. Item 8.2 is gifts or awards presented to council. That's nil for this evening. And item 8.3 is deputations, and deputations were heard at the council agenda briefing held on 23 June 2026. Okay, that brings us to item 9, which is the method of dealing with agenda business. And I'll now seek confirmation from the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Ms Anita Amprimo, that all of the report items contained in tonight's agenda were discussed at the June Council agenda briefing meeting, with the exception of item 14.1, new business of an urgent nature, local government extraordinary elections. Ms Amprimo.
I confirm that's correct, Mr Mayor.
All right. And are there any other announcements about an item that might be withdrawn from the agenda for this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. So in recognition that we only have 5 council members here tonight and there's a financial interest being declared in item 10.5.3 policy review, that would require the member to leave chambers. We would be left with 4 in chambers and we would not have a quorum to consider that item. So I am withdrawing that item from the agenda.
All right, so just to confirm, councillors, item 10.5.3 is being withdrawn from tonight's agenda. So, with the exception of those items to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, reports will be adopted by exception resolution. And by that, I mean the officer recommendation will be adopted as is, without discussion or amendment. And the following items have been withdrawn this evening. That's item 10.1.1, Challenger Reserve Concept Design / Master Plan Project, Alternative Concepts and Costs Estimates. The reason for that is Councillor Lees has an amendment. Also, item 10.3.5, entitled Proposed Tree Damaging Activity to a Regulated Tree, number 17, number 22, Pitt Street, Kensington. The reason is Councillor Kathy Lees has an amendment. We're also withdrawing item 10.5.2, annual review of council delegations. The reason for that is an absolute majority is required. And we're also withdrawing item 10.5.4, entitled Corporate Business Plan Minor Review. And once again, the reason is an absolute majority is required. Councillors, would anyone else like to withdraw any other items for discussion this evening? Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I had a couple of questions in relation to 10.3.4, 10.3.5 and 10.4.3. So if they could both, or the three of those could be withdrawn, that would be appreciated.
All right, so that was 10.3.3, 10.3.4, and did you say 10.3.5?
Sorry, I meant 10.4.3.
10.4.3, okay. Thank you. All right, so I'll just read out those ones and correct me if I've got it wrong. We're also withdrawing this evening 10.3.3, proposed change of use, single house to unhosted short-term rental accommodation, Lot 1, Number 5, Eric Street, Como. 10.3.4, proposed change of use, multiple dwelling to unhosted short-term rental accommodation, Lot 6, Number 106/29 Melville Parade, South Perth. And item 10.4.3, response to notice of motion, financial sustainability strategy. Have I got those correct, Councillor Lees? All right. So withdrawing those ones as well. In that case, councillors, is there any other items that anyone? Councillor Russell.
10.3.7, please.
All right. And also 10.3.7, response to petition, Waterford Estate entry statement. Councillors, any other items to be withdrawn for discussion this evening? No. Okay. In that case, I'm about to call for a mover and a seconder to carry the following items by exception resolution. Those are 10.3.2, Local Planning Policy 5.2, Student Accommodation Facility in ASR 8, revocation. Item 10.3.6, Proposed Illuminated and Non-Illuminated Signage, Lot 1, Number 1 of 2, Meadowvale Avenue, South Perth. Item 10.3.8, WLG 10, Civil Construction, Urban Rivers Catchment Program, Stage 1. Item 10.4.1, Listing of Payments, May 2026. Item 10.4.2, Monthly Financial Statements, May 2026. And item 10.5.1, Minutes of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on 16 June 2026. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Someone to second? I think Councillor Lees was first by a smidge there. Councillors, does anyone oppose any of these items? Oh. I don't think I did. It's not on the run sheet, so hold on. There's one more that we'll be going through on block, folks. My apologies. Which is item 10.3.1, which is Scheme Amendment number 5 to Planning Scheme number 7, Schedule C, ACR2, South Perth Activity Centre, additional centre requirements. Does anyone want to pull that one out? No? Okay, so add that to the items that we're about to carry by exception resolution. Councillor Brenda Abrandis still happy to move? Councillor Lee still happy to second? Okay. Councillors, does anyone oppose any of those items? All right. Then those items that I've just read out have been passed by exception resolution in accordance with clause 5.5 of the City of South Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2027, and the officers' recommendations have been accepted by Council. Thank you to governance for the pick-up there. We'll now be moving on to those reports identified to be withdrawn for discussion, the first of which is item 10.1.1, entitled Challenger Reserve Concept Design Master Plan Project Alternative Concepts and Costs Estimates. Councillor Lees, you've got an amendment to that item. Would you like to lead by moving that item? In that case, what I'll get you to do is we've got points 1 and 2 as per the officer recommendation, but perhaps you can read out points 3, 4 and 5. And once you've done that, I'll see about a seconder and then you can give your reasons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So point 3, requests the Chief Executive Officer seek to minimise tree removal as part of the detailed design of a new Challenger Reserve Pavilion. Point 4 notes that the Manning Memorial Bowling Club seeks refurbishments and enhancements to the existing clubhouse and associated facilities. And 5 requests the Chief Executive Officer engage with the Manning Memorial Bowling Club on the information provided in their deputation presented at the 23rd June 2026 agenda briefing session and provide feedback to elected members on opportunities to deliver the infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, would anyone, Councillor Brenda Abrandis is seconder. Thank you. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I think the amendments are pretty straightforward. The first one in relation to the tree removal is at the proposed site of the Challenger Reserve Pavilion is surrounded by a number of significant large trees that are highly valued by many in our community and provide important amenity and environmental benefits. It is therefore appropriate that the need to minimise tree removal as part of the works is clearly established. The second part of the amendment relates to the deputation from Mr Dalton on behalf of the Manning Memorial Bowling Club at the agenda briefing on 23rd June 2026, which clearly demonstrated that the club has carefully considered its current and future facility needs. Their presentation showed a proactive approach to planning and a strong commitment to the long-term sustainability of the club and its role within the community. Further information is needed to assess feasibility, likely advantages and disadvantages, and final implications of the works that they are proposing. However, I believe it is appropriate that the City continues to work with the club to explore refurbishment and enhancement options that meet their needs, while aligning importantly with future community recreation facility planning, supporting the best long-term outcomes for both the club and the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This amendment is fairly straightforward. I think we should always try to consider trees and retention of trees with regards to our development. So I do support this amendment, and also for the fact that we did hear from the deputation from Mr Dalton last week and the need for the Manning Memorial Bowling Club to have refurbishments, which are well overdue. So consultation, engagement with the Manning Memorial Bowling Club is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak against the amended motion from Councillor Lees? Councillor De Souza.
I've got some questions, Mr Mayor.
By all means.
So with regards to clause 3 of Councillor Lee's motion, would that affect the CEO in going back to consultants as regards to affecting the scope of works?
Ms Mullen, should I send that to you? Or Ms Shaw? My apologies.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our understanding of the intent of Part 3 is that when we engage the consultants to undertake the detailed design, should an allocation be made in the mid-year budget review, our instructions to the consultants would be to seek to minimise tree removal as part of that detailed design process.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillor De Souza.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And is there a risk that that would impact any potential footprint for any works to be done on this site?
Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we could consider what the footprint would be as part of that based on the concepts designs that have been provided in the attachment to the report. If it did impact on any trees as part of that process, we could inform elected members.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillor De Souza.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I wish to speak against this amendment.
Please proceed.
I want to clarify, I'm speaking against Part 3. Parts 4 and 5 seem reasonable and I have no issue with those. So with regards to Part 3, we have had Challenger Reserve, the master plan, the project, before this council for a long time. And I've argued in the past that I think putting further constraints on this project potentially risks delaying the project and risks our ability to tell the admin to just proceed with this project. In terms of the actual footprint, we've had these discussions before, and I've stated before that putting this in will then inform, as Ms Shaw has answered, what goes to the consultant. Now, do we want the consultant to come back to council with various footprints, which is not what we've considered in the past, which might, as has been raised in the past, result in us having to proceed with a 2-storey option, which is the more expensive option? I think we need to send a very clear signal to the community that they have reflected to us sporting infrastructure is in high demand, it's in a great shortfall, and we need to proceed without being ambiguous. Now, in an ideal world, we would preserve trees and we would build Challenger Reserve, but it is a finite site, and we've spent too long tinkering around the edges. I think we just need to proceed with this project and at some point say we can't simply let this issue of trees constrain every single thing we do on council. This is too important. It's been on the back burner for too long, and I won't support anything which delays Challenger Reserve.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Councillors, is there someone who would like to speak in favour of the amendment from Councillor Lees? Councillor Russell?
I just have a question. So the $700,000 for detailed design, does that consider what is to be done with the footprint where we demolish the existing clubhouse or pavilion?
Ms Shaw?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Sorry, can I just have clarification when you mean what is to be done with the footprint, as in it's intended to be located exactly where the existing pavilion is, or?
No, so my understanding is that the new pavilion will be on a new footprint, as it were, and the demolished site will be, well, so the existing clubhouse will be demolished. So when that's demolished, we've got land. So the detailed design, does that consider the use of that land for any purpose?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, from memory, the costings and what would be included in the cost of the new pavilion included minor landscaping, and that would be assumed to be re-landscaping that area.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against the amendment who hasn't spoken so far? I might ask a couple of questions, and only because I haven't had a lot of time to consider this. My first question would be to Ms Shaw. Does the City Administration see anything terribly problematic about the amendment relative to the original officer recommendation?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, it's open to council to decide whether it includes advice to the consultants about minimising tree removal. With parts 4 and 5, the CEO can engage with the Manning Memorial Bowling Club and provide further advice to information as to what the specific details were as part of the deputation that was considered last week.
All right, thank you. And my second question, I suppose I should say that I've got no issue with considering this item tonight, but I do note that the officer recommendation contemplates council considering a $700,000 allocation during the 2026-2027 mid-year budget review, usually in February. And I also note that page 16 of the officer report says that the city doesn't have the operational capacity to manage the detailed design stage until either Q3 or Q4 of the 2026/27 financial year. On the one hand, that makes me wonder whether we should be considering this item in February 2027 rather than tonight. But I can also understand our community having a strong interest in this item and in council's intentions. Can the administration provide a bit of background as to why we are considering this item tonight?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the December 2025 resolution from council doesn't require the CEO to represent this item to council at this point in time. However, the other parts of that resolution did require the preparation of alternative concepts, and there has been previous community and stakeholder engagement on this project. Given the interest and the engagement that's been undertaken to date, the city thought that it would be appropriate to bring this item back to council, given the concept plans have been completed, for council to give some direction not only to the city but also to the community as to the status of the project.
Thank you very much. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak either for or against Councillor Lees? Yes, Councillor Russell.
Just to clarify, the $700,000 is to come from a reserve and not from any savings within the mid-year review?
Ms Shaw? Or Ms Amprimo?
If we identified savings, we could present that at the mid-year budget review, but if we don't, then they would need to come from the reserve. That's correct.
Thank you, Ms Amprimo. Councillors, is there anyone else who wants to speak either for or against who hasn't already spoken? Councillor D'Souza.
Procedural question, Mr Mayor. Just because clauses 3 and then 4 and 5 are quite distinct amendment topics, would you consider putting them to the vote separately?
If the mover and seconder have no objections, Councillor Lees, Councillor Brenda Brandis? All right, I guess we can do that. Councillor D'Souza, I'm assuming you mentioned that you had no issue with 4 and 5, and I haven't heard anyone else speak against. If we were to do 1, 2, 4 and 5 as one vote and point 3 as a second vote, is that acceptable?
That's fine. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
All right. Councillor Lees, Councillor Brenda Brandis, happy with that? All right. In that case, I'll give one more opportunity for people to speak either for or against. No? Councillor Lees, you've got 5 minutes to wind up and rebut any arguments made during debate if you would like to do so.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I take it that we're all in agreement with 4 and 5, so I need not discuss that any further. In terms of item 3, like Councillor D'Souza, I'm very keen to see some works commence at the site. I am aware that the community and particularly the soccer club have been anticipating works there for some time, and the Challenger Reserve Pavilion as it now stands is in a state of urgent need of repair. So I am not suggesting by any means that we don't undertake works there. I am not, if you read the wording of the amendment, it says to minimise tree removal. So if we get to a point where the development is unviable without some tree removal, then that's something that we can consider at the time. But it's very clear to me from the concept plans that the footprint allows for tree removal. I'm just concerned about scope creep on that. So that's why I'm proposing this modification. The reserve pavilion doesn't have a large footprint. And as I said, I'm not suggesting that every tree must be retained if it makes development unviable. But I think while the community want the facilities to be provided and they are very passionate about this, I also think that the community are very passionate about trees, and those trees are very highly valued. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think we can deliver a very good outcome on the site for the pavilion while retaining the trees, and that is what this amendment seeks to do. So I'll put it to you for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. So, councillors, I'm about to put paragraphs 1, 2, 4 and 5 of Councillor Lees' amendment to the vote. And once we've resolved that, I'll put paragraph 3 to a separate vote. So, this vote is for paragraphs 1, 2, 4 and 5. Councillors, please cast your votes. All right, so that has carried unanimously. Thank you all. I'm now putting paragraph 3 of Councillor Lees' amended motion to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. All right, so the votes are in. Those who voted in favour of paragraph 3 were Councillor Brenda Brandis, Councillor D'Souza, Councillor Lees and Mayor Milner. Those who voted against were Councillor D'Souza. Okay.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, you said I voted both for and against.
Oh, my apologies.
I voted against.
Clearly, can we get that back? Well, I know what it is. So those in favour were myself, Mayor Greg Milner, Councillors Andre Brenda Brandis, Kathy Lees and Stephen Russell. Those against, Councillor Blake D'Souza. Thank you for the clarification, Councillor D'Souza. It's been a long day. All right. So I think I said councillors, plural. I hope I did. If I didn't, I certainly meant to say councillors, plural. All right. Moving on to item 10.3.3, which is the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening. It's entitled Proposed Change of Use, Single Home to Unhosted Short-Term Rental Accommodation, Lot 1, Number 5, Eric Street in Como. I haven't received any alternative motions or any amended motions for this item. We do have an officer recommendation before us. Would someone move the officer recommendation, please? Councillor Russell, thank you. Someone to second? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillor Russell, anything to say? No. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, anything to say? No. Councillor Lees, I think you indicated you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I note that we did receive an objection. I believe it was from the next door landowner or resident. And one of their particular concerns was about noise arising from the short-term use. And I am aware that this one allows, it's a large house, but allows for 9 guests at any one time. So I just wanted clarification. They were suggesting ongoing noise monitoring. And I wanted to be clear that the council hasn't taken this step with any other short-term accommodation within the city.
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the chair. I'm aware of a small number of properties within the city that have registered for unhosted short stay accommodation that do have active noise management systems, noise monitoring. These are typically, the ones I'm aware of are in group dwellings and multiple dwellings, not single residential, not single dwellings. I've not become aware of any installed in those properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Lees?
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Ms Mullen. So were they put on as conditions of development approval?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you for the question through the chair. No, they were offered by the applicant as part of the management plan. It should also be noted that local planning policy 2.5 unhosted short-term rental accommodation doesn't actually require operators to install such monitoring equipment. They do need to address how noise will be managed through management plans and code of conduct, which is what the applicant has done in this case.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Lees, any further questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Ms Mullen. If the adjoining residents are having issues with noise, what would be the process for them to get the city to address those issues?
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the chair. The first step would be to contact the owners of the property because their details are provided in the management plan, which I understand are provided to the residents. It should be noted that this is actually a recommended 12-month approval in any case. If there are issues in relation to noise that arise, I'm sure the city would receive submissions, complaints from the neighbours, and this would all be taken into consideration when the matter comes before council for consideration again.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, any further questions on this item? No? Does anyone wish to speak either for or against? No? I'll simply put the officer recommendation to the vote then. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to item 10.3.4, which is entitled Proposed Change of Use, Multiple Dwelling to Unhosted Short-Term Rental Accommodation, Lot 6, number 106/29, Melville Parade, South Perth. Once again, I haven't received any amended motions or alternative motions. We do have an officer recommendation before us. Would someone like to move the officer recommendation? Councillor Russell, thank you. Anyone to second? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillor Russell, would you like to speak? No. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, would you like to speak? No. Councillor Lees, understand you might have a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First question is, am I right in understanding that this unit has already been operating as a short-term rental accommodation?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, that's correct. It is currently registered with Demers and may operate for up to 90 nights without the benefit of development approval.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Ms Mullen. Has the city received any complaints in relation to this, or would they go to Demers if there were complaints?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you through the chair. I'm not aware of any complaints being received by the city, but they would be received by the city.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Lees.
Thank you. I think a question might have been asked last week, but there's nothing in the planning policy, the relevant planning policy, that limits the number of units on a strata property that can be used for this purpose.
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. No, that's correct. If the strata or the council of owners wish to introduce a limit, they could do that through the bylaws of the building itself, but the city does not have any restriction on the number of units. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one further question. We received 3 submissions in relation to this application. And there were a range of issues in relation to the management of the property. Can you please confirm again the process for residents in the complex to raise complaints with the city and how they would be dealt with?
Thank you for the question. Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. Again, akin to the previous answer, the first point of contact would be with the owner/operator, because the contact details will be provided to adjacent owners within the management plan. They may also contact the city, and the city would also contact the operator. And again, the recommended condition is for a 12-month approval to determine how the unit operates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, Councillor Lees?
Just one further question. So that the complaints, if they are received by the city, could be dealt with fairly promptly?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. The first point would be for the city to contact the operator and seek them to address the issues that have been raised. But it would be a prompt response, as with all compliance cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, any further questions on this item? No? Would anyone like to speak either for or against? No? In that case, I'll put the officer recommendation to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we now turn to item 10.3.5, entitled Proposed Tree Damaging Activity to a Regulated Tree, Lot 17, number 22, Pitt Street in Kensington. Councillor Lees, I understand that you've got an amendment that you'd like to move. Would you like to kick off by reading out that, well, I suppose just read out the motion generally, and then I'll see about a seconder.
So you wanted me to read out the whole recommendation?
So from on your hard copy amendment to substantive motion, from the heading amendment to substantive motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the amendment is as follows, that, the recommendation is that pursuant to the provisions of City of South Perth Local Planning Scheme number 7 and the Metropolitan Region Scheme, the application for development for tree damaging activity to a regulated tree on Lot 17, number 22, Pitt Street, Kensington, be approved, and here is the amendment that I am proposing, subject to the following condition. 1, one tree must be planted on site. The tree must be a minimum of 2 metres high and 100 litre pot size at the time of planting, and both the tree and the tree growth zone must be retained and maintained to the satisfaction of the City of South Perth.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, would someone like to second Councillor Lees's amended motion? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the loss of the tree is regrettable. It is a large tree that makes a significant contribution to canopy in the neighbourhood. And we know that we have an issue in terms of our canopy cover being at appropriate levels. But I acknowledge, however, that it sits centrally on the site, and while I don't believe its retention within a new house development is impossible, it would require substantial design modifications. Given the tree species and its history of pruning and epicomic growth, I'm not convinced such modifications are warranted. So on that basis, I accept that removal is reasonable. But I am seeking an amendment to the approval to require the planting of a new tree on site. As I said, the development will result in a notable reduction of existing canopy on the site, while a new tree will take decades to provide the canopy of the existing tree. It is appropriate that one be planted to help offset the loss and contribute to positive long-term environmental outcomes in the neighbourhood. By imposing a condition requiring the planting of these trees, council and the community can have certainty that canopy replacement will occur and that the long-term environmental benefits of that tree are secured. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Brenda Brandis, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This amendment is appropriate. I think taking into consideration the location of the existing tree and the removal of that tree does have a significant impact with regard to the community, because it is a tree that you can actually view from the streetscape. Given the size of the piece of land and the possibility for replanting a significant or another substantial tree, which might become significant in years to come, along the perimeter of this property might be a better outcome, or another location. So I think the amendment that's proposed is in keeping with the intention of our local planning policy in trying to ensure that we do preserve significant trees on private property, as the tree canopy cover is not just a local government initiative on verges and on public open spaces, but also within private properties. So I do support this amendment. I think this is actually quite a reasonable outcome for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Brandis. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak against the amendment by Councillor Lees? Councillor Russell,
I have some questions, please.
by all means.
So to the city, can the city see any issues with this amendment?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you, through the chair. No, I understand the applicant has already indicated that they wish to plant a tree on the site in any case.
Okay. Does this tree, or this amendment, does it need to be a bit more specific in terms of a species of tree?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you, through the chair. This condition has been used on other development applications approved by council,
Okay.
and the city doesn't see an issue with the wording of the condition.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, any further questions on this item? No. Would anyone else like to speak either for or against? No. There being no debate, there's no need for Councillor Lees to wind up. I'll simply put the amendment from Councillor Lees to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we now turn to item 10.3.7, which is the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening. That is entitled Response to Petition, Waterford Estate Entry Statement. I haven't received any amended motions or alternative motions for this item. There is an officer recommendation before us. Would someone like to move the officer recommendation? Councillor D'Souza, thank you. Would someone like to second the officer recommendation? I will. Councillor D'Souza, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thank the city for providing this report back. Obviously, we heard last week from some members of the Waterford community in regards to this item, and they've stated how important this is to the local area. In terms of having an approach whereby the city designs a policy, I have no issues with that. I was initially of the mind that, you know, it might potentially just create more issues in terms of the petition asked for an entry statement, but having a policy, I think, is a good way to guide this issue and guide other potential issues in this area going forward. I thank especially the Miss M. Primo for working with us in the community to get guidance on how to proceed with this. And I think that's been very useful. I think once this is completed, it'll be a great asset to the local area. Anyone driving along Manning Road will clearly appreciate how distinct Waterford is, and I think that's what the locals there really would appreciate as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. I won't say much as seconder other than to say I've got no issue with the officer recommendation. Councillors, would anyone like to speak against the officer recommendation? Councillor Russell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to speak against this because, like I argued previously on the budget item, I find these type of assets purely superfluous to local government remits. Indeed, what we'll be doing here is that we'll be opening up these entry statements to all suburbs, and we'll be having to carry capital item costs and the hidden cost, which is the operating costs or the maintenance costs. And that's just ridiculous. And for what? For what purpose? It's completely outside of the remit of local government. Now, if this actually does go ahead, then yeah, I'll be arguing big time for some entry statements for Kensington and Como East. And you know what? Who cares about prudent financial management? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillors, is there anyone else who wishes to speak either for or against the officer recommendation? Councillor, I think Councillor Lees was first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just not sure that a council policy of this nature is a priority when we've got so many other matters we need to be addressing. I share the concerns of Councillor Russell in terms of the consistency of our approach, and if we have an entry statement policy, are we going to be providing entry statements to every suburb? I accept that we should have entry statements to the city. I think these types of entry statements, like the Waterford entry statement, are ordinarily provided by developers as part of new subdivisions. They are not something that the city would normally be providing. So it does concern me that we're looking to have a policy on entry statements, which may then proceed to set some sort of precedent for this to be an ongoing approach. So I'm just not sure that this is a good use of city officer time. So I don't think I can support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, I saw your hand go up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm also speaking against this item for the same reasons. I don't consider that we should have a policy in place with regard to entry statements for the suburbs. I agree for the city, entry statements are appropriate. But if we take into consideration the approval of the Waterford entry sign, and if we were to replicate that across the 7 suburbs, we could be up for more than $500,000 worth of costs. Whilst we consider that we have run tight budgets, and we have just run a tight budget, and we also considered that there was quite a significant amount of additional undertakings that couldn't have been included in the 26-27 budget, I don't consider it appropriate that these requests for entry signs into suburbs are appropriate. I appreciate the legacy that we've got, that it is actually an old developer's entrance sign, and it was only supported as good as it was for when the developer was active in the area, and often when developers move on, they don't tend to take any more ownership for maintenance of the gardens and the reserves and waterways and entrance signs. So look, I don't think we should be putting ourselves into a position where entrance signs are appropriate across all suburbs, and I don't support this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillor Lees, a question?
So there was a decision made at the special council meeting last week on the budget, and the Waterford entrance is going ahead. So we recognise that the community felt strongly about that, and that is proceeding. Have we had any other requests for entry statements over the last, 5 years, say?
Who should I send that to, folks? Ms Amprema?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So I would have to check, but I'm not aware of any.
Thank you, Ms Amprema. Councillors, everyone has spoken, so I'll give Councillor De Souza 5 minutes to rebut any arguments made during debate, if he would like to do so.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it's really not that hard. What we have before us is a response to the petition which the administration have prepared. And that response says that we prepare, as a council, a policy. It doesn't create new entry statements. It might end up creating a very rigid list of criteria, whereby we can consider those in the future. This is separate to the Waterford entry statement, which is already funded in the budget. But I do want to commend the staff for putting this report together, because I think it provides a framework for going forward. I don't think it's a large investment, given that as a city, we obviously do the basics and we do them well. Roads, rubbish collection, parks, libraries. But there are also certain things, like entry statements, which, yes, obviously have a cost associated with them, but also provide something which is increasingly lost in the current environment, which is a sense of place. We talk a lot about placemaking, but how more significant could you have a sense of place when you see a sign as you enter a certain area that, yes, that's where I belong to, that's where I'm from. I appreciate that this is especially sort of more significant given Waterford has had one since the 80s and it might not be as significant in other areas, so I'm happy to accept that. But I do think this is something that we should turn our minds to. This is what this staff have recommended, and I support this, and I think it's a policy which I think we should explore, collaborate, and see how we can progress this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Councillors, I'm putting the officer recommendation to the vote. Please cast your votes. And the votes are in. The officer recommendation has failed, 2 votes to 3. Those in favour were Councillor Blake D'Souza and Mayor Greg Milner. Those against were Councillor Andre Brender-Abrandis, Councillor Kathy Lees and Councillor Stephen Russell. Thank you all. We now move on to the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, which is item 10.4.3, entitled Response to Notice of Motion, Financial Sustainability Strategy. Councillors, I haven't received any amended motions or alternative motions on this item. We do have an officer recommendation before us. Would someone like to move the officer recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Lees. Anyone to second? I guess I will. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours.
I didn't wish to speak on it necessarily, Mr Mayor, but I did have some questions in relation to this.
By all means, I won't speak because officer recommendation is pretty straightforward to me, but we can go to your questions now.
So I am aware that a number of local governments are now applying differential rating to short-term residential rental accommodation, including Bassendean and Vincent, plus a number of others. And I am aware that we have a large number of these in the city of South Perth. I do know the numbers, but for the public record, I was wondering if the city could advise how many properties, how many short-term rental accommodation properties we have within the city of South Perth.
Ms Shaw, should I send that your way?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There are 48 registered properties within the City of South Perth that offer hosted short stay accommodation and 78 properties offering unhosted short-term rental accommodation.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillors, any other questions on this item? Councillor Lees.
So in terms of differential rating, I know this may be a difficult question to answer, but if these properties are added to the list of properties which increased rates are applied, such as vacant land, commercial land, I know we've been told before that differential rating is difficult in the city of South Perth because of the number of properties that we would be applying it to, but would this make differential rating more financially viable for the city? I suppose my question. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Ms Shaw?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it would be appropriate that the city did some financial modelling to see the impact that that would have and whether or not council was considering including differential rating based on vacant and improved and the zoning of property as well as the land use itself. So we would need some parameters around that to look at some of that modelling. There's also provisions under the Local Government Act that require advertising of the intention for differential rates, and so the city would require some sufficient timeframes to undertake that modelling before council considered that, to ensure that if council was to include differential rating in the next annual budget, we could meet those legislative timeframes in terms of advertising of those rates.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillor Lees?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Ms Shaw. So essentially, we'd be looking at some sort of council resolution early next year, calendar year, sorry.
Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We would need an indication from council, likely through the budget workshops, for us to undertake that modelling and some of the parameters around that. But it would require a resolution of council to advertise differential rates and what the parameters are. So the objective reasons for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillors, any further questions on this item? Would anyone like to speak for or against? No? There being no debate, there's no need for a wind-up. I'll simply put the officer recommendation to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 10.5.2, annual review of council delegations. Once again, I haven't received any amended motions or any alternative motions. There is an officer recommendation before us. Would someone like to move the officer recommendation? I guess I will. Anyone to second? Councillor D'Souza, thank you. Councillors, not much to say other than we do have a statutory obligation under the Local Government Act to review our delegations each financial year. So I hope this one passes. Councillor D'Souza, anything to say as seconder? No? Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against? Councillor Lees.
I just had a question, thank you. Can I confirm that notwithstanding the amendments to Delegation DC 609, a not-for-profit community organisation may request a lease term longer than 5 years with a further 5-year option?
Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, it would just require a decision of council.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? No? No one wants to speak either for or against? No? There being no debate, there's no need for me to wind up. I'll simply put the officer recommendation to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you all. We would have moved to item 10.5.3 at this stage, but that has been withdrawn from the agenda for this evening, which brings us to item 10.5.4, which is entitled Corporate Business Plan Minor Review. Once again, there's no amended motion or alternative motion. We do have an officer recommendation before us and an absolute majority is required. Councillors, would anyone like to move the officer recommendation? I will. Anyone to second? Councillor D'Souza, thank you. Councillors, not much to say. It's what it says on the tin. We've got an officer report, we've got an officer recommendation. I think we should pass it. Councillor D'Souza, anything to say as seconder? No? Councillors, any questions? No? Would anyone like to speak either for or against? No. There being no debate, there's no need for me to wind up. I'll simply put the officer recommendation to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you again, councillors. All right, that concludes item 10. We now move to item 11, which is applications for a leave of absence. Councillors, does anyone wish to make an application for a leave of absence? No? Then we move on to item 12, which is motions of which previous notice has been given. The first is item 12.1, entitled Notice of Motion, South Perth Senior Citizens Centre. Councillor Lees, would you like to move that? All right. Councillors, would anyone like to second the motion? I guess I will. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This notice of motion is pretty straightforward, I think. The city currently has an agreement with South Perth Senior Citizens to provide an operational subsidy that supports the engagement of contracted staff to deliver programs and services for local seniors. Prior to this agreement, the city actually provided a staff member to manage the centre, consistent with the ongoing arrangement with the Manning Senior Citizens Centre. The agreement to provide that subsidy commenced in 2021-22 with an annual renewal option for 4 subsequent years, subject to annual review and council adoption of the subsidy through the annual budget. The existing 5-year lease for the centre is also approaching its renewal point, with the senior citizens holding an option for a further 5-year term subject to conditions commencing 1st of October 2026. My understanding is that exercising that option is part of their consideration is the ongoing subsidy from the city. So the senior citizens have been a valued community organisation since 1959, with approximately 65 years of support from the city, demonstrating a long-standing and trusted partnership. The centre has played an important role in supporting the wellbeing, social connection and quality of life of seniors across the district, and decisions affecting its future should acknowledge this contribution. Accordingly, any changes to funding or facility arrangements should be well informed, carefully considered and approached with compassion and respect. So during recent budget workshops, the ongoing funding of the centre was discussed. The need for further engagement with the senior citizens was recognised, and I was felt particularly strongly about this. I think it's important to provide the council with a clear understanding of the organisation's ongoing sustainability, future service plans and capacity to meet the evolving needs of our local seniors. It is important that this consultation be undertaken to support evidence-based decision-making, ensure responsible use of ratepayer funds and deliver outcomes that best meet community needs. Noting the city's long association with the South Perth Senior Citizens Centre and its commitment to supporting local seniors. So I put this notice of motion to you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. I'm the seconder, but I don't think there's much I can add to that. Councillors, would anyone like to speak against the notice of motion? No? Would anyone else like to speak in favour? No? There being no debate, I'll simply put item 12.1 to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. And that was unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now turn to item 12.2, entitled Notice of Motion, Community Consultation regarding potential collaboration and future amalgamation with the Town of Victoria Park. Councillors, does anyone wish to move this motion? Oh, it can't be moved?
The standing.
I see. Apologies, councillors. I understand under the standing orders this could only be moved by the originator of the motion, which is former councillor Tim Howling, unless someone has been authorised in writing to move it on behalf of former councillor Tim Howling's behalf. I haven't received any notice to that effect. If anyone wants to correct me, I'll give them a brief opportunity. No? In that case, item 12.2 has lapsed. We now move on to item 13, which is entitled Questions from Members. Item 13.1 is responses to previous questions from members taken on notice, and responses to questions from members taken on notice at the May 2026 Ordinary Council meeting can be found in the appendix of this agenda. And I should have thanked Governance for the clarification on item 12.2, so I'll do that now. Thank you, Governance. Item 13.2 is questions from members. Councillors, any questions for the administration this evening? Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think a couple of months ago I raised questions regarding ACOD or disability car bays under city management, and I think the city was, in response to that, were needing to undertake an audit. I'm just wondering where the city stands with that.
Who should I send that to, folks? Ms Ambrimo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So I don't believe that assessment has been undertaken yet.
Thank you, Ms Ambrimo. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Lees.
Thank Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have been contacted by a number of residents who are concerned, as I am, about the extent of tree removal that has recently taken place at the Royal Perth Golf Course. Could the administration please advise what monitoring or oversight the city has undertaken to ensure that the works are being carried out in accordance with the approval given to the club?
Thank you for the question. Ms Amprema?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So we'll take that on notice. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No. Okay. We now move on to item 14, which is new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. Councillors, we have a new item 14 before us seeking acceptance of a cost estimate and written letter agreement provided by the Western Australian Electoral Commission, which provides the authorisation for the Western Australian Electoral Commissioner to conduct the 2026 local government extraordinary elections on behalf of the City of South Perth. I appreciate that maybe not all the councillors have necessarily had an opportunity to read the officer recommendation and the officer report because it did come in late. Would anyone like me to, just by show of hand, move a 10-minute adjournment so anyone that might not have had a chance to read it can get an opportunity? Yes, okay. In that case, I'll move that we have a 10-minute adjournment for that purpose. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brenda Brandis, thank you. Councillors, just by a show of hands, all those in favour for a 10-minute adjournment? Unanimous, thank you very much. The current time is 22 minutes past 7. We'll reconvene at 7:32 p.m. I'll see you all shortly. Welcome back, everyone. Governance, are we online again? Thank you so much. Okay, so we're up to item 14 of the agenda. That's new business of an urgent nature, introduced by decision of the meeting. Our standing orders provide that in cases of extreme urgency or other special circumstances, matters may, on a motion by the presiding member that is carried by the meeting, be raised without notice and decided by the meeting. I'm satisfied that item 14 qualifies as new business of an urgent nature. I will move the officer recommendation. Have we got that on the screen, folks? Or should oh, there we go. No need to read it out then. Could I have a seconder, councillors? I think Councillor Brenda Abrandis was first. Councillors, we need to hold a by-election for 2 vacancies. We will need to pass the officer recommendation to enlist the Western Australian Electoral Commission to hold those by-elections, or by-election rather. Nothing further to say over and above that. Councillor Brenda Brandis, anything to say as seconder? No. Councillors, does anyone oppose this item? By all means.
I have a question, thank you. So my understanding of the costs is that we're $83,000 to the WAEC and an additional $32,000 to some casual staff. So that's a total cost of $115,000. Is my maths correct?
Ms Emprema?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. So the costs associated for the casual staff may not be that amount. That was the amount that cost we incurred for the full election. So it would be dependent on how much that ends up in.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, does the caretaker policy that we have apply to by-elections, extraordinary elections?
That's a good question. Who should I send that to?
We can look now. We'll have a look.
All right, we can have a look now. Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for your patience. Yes, it would be applicable.
Okay, thank you. I just don't have the policy in front of me here. So are you able to advise when that policy will kick in, noting we have got a fixed date here of the 24th of September, an approximate date?
Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It would be 44 days prior to election day.
Okay, that's quite... And can the city sort of like elaborate what items cannot come before council during that day? And is the city aware of any items that may be coming to council during that range?
Who should I send that to, folks? Or is that one we might need to take on notice? Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So in accordance with the policy, it includes matters such as a major land transaction, and if I go down, making a local law, entering into or renewing, terminating the contract of employment of the CEO or a senior employee, entering into a major land transaction, entering into a land transaction prior to any major land transaction undertaking, commencing a major land trading undertaking, entering into a contract or other agreement or arrangement, and various matters relating to leases and licensing, inviting tenders. It's further provided in the policy. There's quite an extensive list. I'm not aware of any items at this point in time that would need to be considered within that time period, given the proposed date of the election is in September. But if any of those matters came about, the city would work towards bringing those items forward or having them considered after their caretaker period to ensure that they weren't impacted by that policy.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillors, any further questions on this item? Councillor D'Souza.
So just to clarify, the caretaker convention or policy doesn't apply from the moment the resignations are effective. It's 44 days before the actual election date. So 44 days before 24 September.
Ms Shaw.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Any further questions on this item, councillors? No? Does anyone wish to speak either for or against? No? There being no debate, there's no need for me to wind up. I'll simply put item 14.1 to the vote. Councillors, please cast your votes. and that was unanimous, and that satisfies the requirement for an absolute majority. So thank you, councillors. That brings us to item 15, which is ordinarily when we would close the meeting to the public if there was any need for us to do so, but there's not, so we won't. And that brings us to item 16, which is closure. So before I do close tonight's meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation. I declare the meeting closed at 7:38 p.m. Thank you all, and good night.